Welcome to Happy Wife, Happy Life. We're your hosts. I'm Kendahl Landreth.
I'm Jordan Myrick.
Two incredibly unqualified,
but deeply in love comedians
who are here to help you navigate all things relationships. And on today's episode, Jordan, what are we talking about?
We're talking about meeting online.
Well, I'm just so excited to have this episode, Jordan, because we actually met online.
Yeah, I don't think anyone is more qualified to talk about meeting online than Kendahl and I, because that's how we met. And now we're engaged, and then we're going to get married and be together forever. So I think this is the perfect episode for us.
I know. We met online. I lived in New York. You lived in LA.
Yes.
Do you want to tell the story of how we met?
Well, it was the height of COVID.
Yeah.
And like you said, you lived in New York. I lived in LA. And a friend, I hate saying this because it makes me sound annoying, but it is the God's honest truth. I had a TikTok that went viral about different Barbies that I thought were lesbians.
And I was trying to date a famous person.
And Kendahl was trying and that made me famous. And Kendahl had a friend that sent it to her, and then Kendahl was like, "Who is this person? I've never seen this person." And her friend was like, "Oh my God, you don't know Jordan? Like, they used to live in New York. They do comedy.
Yeah.
Like, I know them. You guys have a bunch of mutual friends." And Kendahl was like, mission received. And then Kendahl followed me on Instagram.
Okay, well, let's just, first of all, let me say.
Don't say this rude thing you always say.
I was very desperate.
This is so rude. Why do you need to say this?
Because I need to explain the place I was at. And I think we can all relate. During COVID, I had not touched anyone in so long. Not a handhold, not a hug. No sex, no making out. I had not done any of that. I was in my apartment. My wonderful roommate and I had watched 42 seasons of Grey's Anatomy. I was so touch-starved. And anytime you went on any fucking date, you wanted to go on a date and you'd have to plan, okay, let's quarantine for 2 weeks, and then we'll go on a date with just some random person on the internet that you had no idea if you even like them or not. And then 2 minutes into the date, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to go on a second date with this person, but I quarantined for so long so that I could go here, so maybe I should just marry them.
Sure, and now you're sitting 8 feet apart in a park.
Right.
Yeah.
And you can't kiss. Nothing is going to come of this date unless you're like, oh, let's get serious. And then you're just like, I guess we should move in together to be healthy.
Shut up. None of this is nice or helpful.
So
you fell in love with me.
So I saw it, but I did think Jordan was very cute. But just to say, because the way you tell the story makes me sound very creepy.
Well, I didn't even finish. You didn't even let me finish.
But I'm prefacing because you are like.
It doesn't make you sound creepy. So basically, Kendahl followed me. Then Kendahl started responding to a lot of my Instagram stories in a very funny way. So I would post a picture of like a sandwich, and Kendahl would send me the heart eyes emoji. And I was like, this woman's trying to get it. Like,
because I have no patience. So
yeah.
I can't wait for you to post something that would make sense for me to comment on. If I want to slide into your DMs, whatever you've posted, I got to make it work.
Yeah, so Kendahl would just respond heart eyes emoji to anything I was posting. And then finally I was like, okay, I'll give in and see what this person wants. So I was like, how have we never met? We have so many mutual friends. And then Kendahl was like, yeah, crazy. We should go on a Zoom date. And then
Jordan
I found
said
out
no.
I said no because I found out that Kendahl was a couple years younger than me, and I had never dated anyone younger than me. I had only ever dated people older than me. So that already made me like, I don't know about that. But that also had clearly not worked. So, I was like, okay. But I said no. I was like, you live in New York. It's the height of the pandemic. You're a couple years younger than me. You are also a comedian. Like, none of these things appeal to me. I do not want to go on a date with you. And Kendahl was like, listen, I think you will really like me.
This is where I need to. Why I have to preface this story?
Why do you have to preface that? That's so not. It's so nice. It's so confident and
it
cool.
just feels kind of like I should have been like.
Finish.
I know. I just feel like I should have been like heard, and it sounds like I'm
no,
like, give me another try.
Kendahl's worried about being canceled. Kendahl's worried about y'all being upset with her. She's fine. She was just like, I hear you. I do think you would really like me. I do think we would really get along.
Yeah.
I think we should go on one Zoom date, and then if you're not into it,
I'll never talk to you again.
I won't bother you.
I won't keep DMing
awesome.
you.
Great. Yeah,
No
I'll
more
stop
hard eyes.
sending hard eyes emojis to burritos.
No more engagement for you because I was really
you were racking up the engagement. Absolutely. And then we went on one Zoom date, and you were right. That's what I'm like. You don't have to preface it. You were right. We're engaged. I just bought you a very expensive ring. Like everything you did worked. Like I don't understand why you always have to be like, well, let me clear this up. I was desperate, and I would have had sex with anything. No. And I'm like, what in the damn
That's
hell?
not why I say that. Obviously, I would not have. First of all, I would not have dated. I wasn't desperate in the sense that I would have dated anyone. I think I was just in a time, and I think a lot of people were in this moment as well during COVID, where you're like, everything feels meaningless. So where I usually would have been like, oh, they seem uninterested. Also, we live so far away, so clearly I should just take a step back. I think I was just like, nothing means anything, and I'll just keep DMing. I was DMing. I was like, I'll DM it. I'll DM anyone. It's nothing to do with, of course, then
why
we went on a date.
To tell everyone that?
Because it's not about that I would
DM anyone.
Well, it's not about that I would date anyone. I only would date you forever and always. But I'm just saying, there was that point during COVID where I felt feral. You never felt feral during COVID?
I don't know, I guess. I think I felt feral early on. I had a lot going on at the beginning of COVID, and then I settled into it a little bit.
See, I was fine. Obviously, COVID was horrible, so I was processing that for the beginnings of COVID, but I think I'm very introverted. So the first 6 months of COVID, I was like, I'm doing okay. I'm painting on a canvas. I don't know how to paint, but I bought these canvases. I was painting. I was doing a lot of crocheting. I was watching a lot of movies. I was enjoying myself. And then as it started to get into year
Wow,
one,
I was the polar opposite.
Really?
I was bracing for death every single day. And then finally I was like, you know what? I'm going to start reading.
Yeah.
And then my roommate and I got really into making homemade pizzas.
Oh.
And things got better for me personally in the capacity that they could. But you know what I'll say? We're all still able to go to work now. We're all doing things. We're all leaving our houses, unlike at that time. But I'm still a huge proponent of meeting people online.
Of dating online. I think it's an amazing way to start dating. So first of all, what would you say would be the pros to dating online?
I think the number one pro is you can suss out immediately if someone is a definite no for you. Yeah. I think that people can trick you, or you could learn more things about people that maybe after the fact you realize you don't like, or something comes out that you haven't seen. But there are certain things that people just don't jive on. Even on dating apps, there is a certain style of picture that someone will put on a dating app that I'm like, oh, I don't think someone that I would be on the same page with would necessarily put this style of picture.
The selfie with the dog ears from Snapchat?
Sure. There's just a couple things where I'm like, or a picture of a huge group of people on a group vacation. I'm like, I'm not trying to go on a group vacation. That tells me right now.
Or a hiking trip. You're
sure,
like, no.
Just different things. It gives you a good excuse to suss them out. Also, I think their answers to the questions. I love someone, and I think you're a good example of this. I think the perfect balance of sincerity and sarcasm is ideal. Mm-hmm. I want someone who can be funny, who can take a joke, who can make fun of themselves, who can sometimes be sarcastic, but I also don't like people who are like, my thing is that I'm sarcastic. I'm like, shut up. And I also do want people to be sincere about their interests and what they like. I want people to be able to be comfortable in the fact that they enjoy things.
Yeah.
And I think on someone's online presence, you can really feel that. Sometimes I would see a girl and I'd be like, she is so hot. And then all of her answers would kind of be ironically detached. That's not interesting to me.
Well, and you right up front have to plan something with someone, which I think is a really good indicator of where someone's at in life. I think when you just meet someone at a bar and then you hook up and then later you're like, let's text each other. It doesn't take a lot of planning and being mature on that person's part and intentional. Whereas when you're dating online, you have to be like, we need to plan. I mean, especially during COVID, when we met, we lived so far away.
Yeah.
So we didn't get to meet for a really long time because we couldn't fly on a plane. But I think it started our relationship with a lot of tough conversations. I'm not comfortable flying right now because of XYZ. XYZ being a pandemic.
Yeah.
I'm really afraid of flying.
That makes it sound like one of us was like, baby, get over here. No. And the other one was like, I believe in COVID.
No, but I think that could have been that wasn't.
Sure, but that would have been a red flag.
Discussion. And I would have been like, oh, I'm having, because I'll tell you, one time I dated a person for a year and then found out they voted for Donald Trump. And listen, I was young. I was like 19 at the time.
Kendahl wasn't asking the hard questions.
I was not. Well, I was 19, so I also, I was pretty. But I think it's when you're gay. I was talking about this the other day with a friend. I was like, we need to start remembering. Just because you're gay does not mean this is the political place you fall.
Yes, you assume, not you, we, all of us.
I did assume.
It can be very easy to assume that because someone is gay, trans, queer, whatever, that they are left leaning.
And they're not.
And sometimes they're not. So you have to find that out.
Yes, 100%.
I also like on dating apps that they have that little section that's just a scroll bar across the top that it's like the pill emoji, the weed
if
emoji,
you want to have babies,
your like political affiliation. I think that stuff is so important because it is so heartbreaking to date someone for 3 months that you really, really like and find out like one of you wants to have children and the other doesn't, or even to go on a singular date. I have a friend who went on a date and the person was so weird about the fact that they didn't drink. I'm like, that is awful. You should never have to be put in that situation. Right. So I think sometimes meeting online can kind of help get those things out of the way.
Usually back in the day, pre-dating app, those were things people found out a year into dating. It's hard to get through all those questions, and sometimes people didn't even know what questions to ask.
Sure.
Whereas I think, I say this all the time. I think dating can be what? What are you laughing at?
I just have no clue what you're gonna say.
I say this all. I say a lot of shit.
I know.
I say a lot of stuff. I'm talking constantly.
And
poor
sometimes
Jordan.
Kendahl will say something that she has literally never said before, and she'll be like, "Well, I always say."
I say it in my head.
Like, okay.
Poor Jordan on the car ride here. I had to go, I'm sorry, can you quiet down? I talk so much and I talk so loud. I'm screaming constantly about no one's listening, no one's responding. I'm just talking.
No, I love how much you talk. We were just in the car in traffic and I was starting to get nauseous because I'm on pain medication because I had surgery on both my feet. Let's get
Show the other
in here.
Oh, Jordan. You're so pretty with your little boots.
So I had surgery on both my feet, so I'm on pain medication, and we're like in traffic on the way here. I get really car sick in general. I'm normally the driver. Kendall's the passenger princess, but
and there's a reason for that. It's because Jordan's a backseat driver, and I said a long time ago, I'm not driving with you.
Well, and that's because Kendahl can be a bad driver. So, there's a lot goes into everything, but I was starting to get nauseous, and I was also trying to do work for the podcast, so we were like ready when we got here.
Yeah.
And Kendahl was unintentionally talking so loud, and I was like, I love you so much, can you just talk a little bit quieter?
And I was really I said, yes, I can.
And I felt really bad asking you to do that.
You don't need to feel bad. I sometimes
because I knew
myself.
We'd get on the podcast and then you'd go, on the way
you
here,
did not
Jordan told me to shut it. You gonna make a big deal out of it?
No, but I talk all the time. What was I gonna say though?
I'm sorry.
Oh, I say all the time. I say all the damn time. I think dating needs to be really clinical. Would that be the right word to use? I think it is not about feelings a lot of the time. I truly mean this. I love Jordan with everything in me. I think we have so much fun together. I am so attracted to Jordan. I could go on and on and on. Those are not the reasons why I'm so confident we will be together forever.
Yeah, those aren't the reasons we necessarily work.
Yes, I think day to day, of course, like you make me laugh all the time. But, even stuff like communication, we're good communicators, but we've also had to work on communicating. Like, all of that stuff you can work on. But we have so many similar wants in life, so many similar ways of thinking about things, morally, viewpoints, politically, all of those. Sense of humor, core values. So I think whenever we're coming at an issue, it kind of feels like we come at it in a similar way. Even if we have different opinions, we're coming from like a similar place. I think that's what keeps us together, even in terms of like moving somewhere. Like you and I both don't like have a place we want to live, but we're both like open. We're like, oh, we'd move somewhere, I guess. We'd move somewhere besides here. Where some people are like, I am live or die here, and I don't want to move anywhere else. And I don't want to talk about moving. Some people are like,
fine, but you should know that before a first date.
Or like, or on the first date, or like, I want to move. I want to be like a nomad and move all around the world all the time. I'd be like, I don't want to do that. So
yeah, if I met someone who referred to themselves as a nomad, I would say,
no more,
no date for you.
So I think it's nice. I think dating apps are nice because you get it a lot on the table in a really mature way.
And I don't even think it has to be a dating app. I don't even think it has to be a dating app.
Oh, no. I think it makes it easier on a dating app. I think you don't have to, it kind of does it for you on a dating app.
I think Instagram is the new dating app.
Oh, that's how we met.
But I think Instagram, I think TikTok, they're the new dating apps because you're putting yourself out there. You're putting everything out there, being like, this is me, this is what I want people to see. And I also think that's really important with being online, is because that can also tell you on your first date with someone. If you meet someone that presents very much one way online and then is very different in real life, to me personally, that feels like a red flag, because
Okay, well, I play an old
say,
woman online,
and
so
that's why I love you. But that says to me, you want people to perceive this thing,
Yeah.
but you are actually this thing. I think that's a little bit of a red flag for me. It doesn't mean you have to put your full self on the internet all the time to be
Yeah.
authentic, but I'm like, if you're constantly like sharing stuff of you like clubbing or drinking a lot or whatever, and then like I meet you and then you're like, oh, I hate going to the club. I'll be like, why do you want people to think you go to the club so much? It's not a deal breaker, but I'm just like, that's interesting. Let's talk about that.
Yes,
It gives you some clarity immediately.
I think there's a lot of, in dating, a lot of people trying to be perceived a certain way, and I'm like, that's very interesting, because if you're trying to find a life partner, why would you want to be attractive like as a partner to people who you have nothing in common with? That doesn't really make sense to me.
I don't know. We do sound like this is some kind of like Mormon dating blog. We're like,
Why?
dating intentionally is very important.
Well, no, I don't think dating intentionally is important. I think if you want to have a partner, dating intentionally is important. But if you want to like be like, I never want to get married and I just want to like
we also
have
love that.
sex all the time, I'm like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I think a lot of people are like, I want a wife, help me.
Yes.
And they do feel at a loss because it feels very hard. But I think if you're like really upfront and you're like, I want to be in a relationship, I want to have a wife one day, that's what I'm looking for.
Yes.
It actually makes it a lot easier, because it is really hard to make someone who doesn't want to do that want to do that. And it is really easy to make someone who wants to do that.
Sure.
And want to do it. So I think that's a huge pro about dating apps.
Cons?
Cons. I think a con is that people feel really confident when they're behind a keyboard, and sometimes that does not translate to real life.
Yes.
So I think sometimes people can give a lot of themselves when they're just DMing, and they're really flirty and they're really fun and they're, giving it all away. And so you don't ever get to do that in person. You don't, once you're at the first date, you're like, we kind of already did all of that, and this person is now acting totally different.
Yeah.
So not even kind of different what you were saying about their social medias they're putting out a certain thing, but even just like the confidence is much more there when they're behind a laptop.
Yeah. I think a con of dating online is that there is then pressure to represent yourself fully and completely to the masses.
Yeah.
And I think that's not always helpful, because if I can be honest with you in this moment, if I had just seen your Instagram profile with no context, I would not have been like, we're going to get married.
In what ways?
Your Instagram was so boring.
I didn't really post on Instagram.
I know, that's what I'm saying, which I don't think you should be dinged for. I think if you don't use social media, that's incredible, and I love you for that. But
I had that fun picture of me and Nicole on the couch.
Yeah.
That was boring.
No, I liked that picture.
I put a lot of filters on that.
I liked that picture. There just wasn't really much going on.
Yeah,
and
I didn't post a lot.
Instagram didn't really say much about you.
100%.
So I was kind of like,
I kind of just used it to connect with like friends and stuff at the time.
Sure, which I think is how you were supposed to use it. That's the intention behind it. But for me, well, I'm also like, if I was not a professional comedian, I would not own a cell phone.
That's how
I would not have any form of social media. I would not ever post a picture of myself online. I would not do anything.
I mean, I'm that way because I practically do that now. I mean, people's biggest gripe with me, like if you're friends with me, I do not text back. I don't answer calls because my phone is always like in another room. I just like can't with the cell phones. And I'm not trying to sound, that does not make me better than anyone. It makes me worse than everyone. And I know that. I'm really hard to reach. But I feels very, it really, I cried. I was on my period, but I cried really the other week because I was like, we're going to look back when we're 80 and just be like, we've been in our phones for this whole time. Like, it really freaks me out.
Weird. I think another con of meeting online is needing to have good pictures of yourself.
Oh, yeah.
And I think if you are a normal person who is not in the entertainment industry or is not a professional photographer, why would you have a bunch of incredible, sexy, fun pictures of yourself? Right. When I was on Hinge, I would see these people that had the most unbelievable pictures. And I'd be like, where are we all getting these like boudoir photos and these professional nature hiking photos and all these things where it was just like, why do you have to have so many nice pictures of yourself? I feel like regular people, you got a picture of you with your family, which you don't want to put on a dating app. You know, you holding your nephew or whatever, you don't want to put that on a dating app.
Yeah.
Maybe you take a good selfie, okay? Why do you need a bunch of extra solo pictures of yourself? Very frustrating to me.
And there's another con that connects to that. I think it puts a ton of pressure for people to look really hot. And it's kind of like, the reality is, they're getting a little better about it now, but when I was using dating apps, it was kind of like, it was pretty much just the pictures. And you don't have a ton to go off of. And even if now there is more information about the person, your first reaction is their looks.
Yes.
And
which in real life, your first reaction might be their vibe.
Personality, vibe, 100%. And it's hard to not focus on that. It's hard. Like when I was scrolling, of course I'm like, oh, that person's cute. And that's the first thing I think. That doesn't matter. And I'm going to say it. I don't think looks in dating should matter. I don't think. And I think some people are like, well, I think you need to be attracted to them. And I'm like, you know, of course I'm very attracted to you. But I just think.
But we're going to get some mean comments on this about my looks.
No. This is not about me and you.
Right.
Jordan. You know, I think you're the most beautiful person in the whole world.
You
You
do.
do know
I know
that.
you
I'm like
do.
obsessed with you. I'm like
you
obsessed.
You're obsessed with me.
I do think, but I think you're so hot and iconic now.
No, I actually
But
agree.
when you're
wait, hold on, what?
But when you're 90,
oh yeah.
I don't
agree
think you're
with
gonna
what
look
you're
the
saying.
same when you're 90. Or even when you're 50, who cares? It doesn't matter. I still
Okay.
think you're beautiful, but I love you so much. I don't care. Like when people are like, well, of course looks aren't the most important thing, but yeah, they matter to me. And I'm like, they shouldn't, because you don't know what's gonna happen. And that's different if you're just dating around. If you're like, I'm just having fun and I want to date hot people,
Great.
pop off. If you're like, I'm looking for a wife, I'm sorry, I don't think it matters. I don't think their looks matter. And I think that you really need to remember that anything could happen. Your partner could fall into a canyon and get their face ripped off.
100%.
And then look completely different. Not look bad, but look completely different.
I think that's such a thing that you have incredible clarity on, because Kendahl's parents were married for years, and then your dad became fully paralyzed.
Yes.
And that obviously changes the way you look. And I think it really gave you a sense that your parents actually had a real connection.
Well, yeah.
And I think that made that much more important to you, because you've said that so many times, and I don't hear people talk about that as much. And I think it does come from this really enlightened place that you have that maybe other people don't, of seeing someone have a big physical transformation while being in a relationship.
Because life is long, you guys.
Life is long. We do always say that.
It is long.
We do. We always say that.
Long. I don't know what we are going to both look like in 10 years. I don't know what we're going to look like in 5 years. It's like, you don't know what's going to happen. Also, things happen. Like, I mean, right now you've just had foot surgery and you're not able to like walk.
And it's affecting my looks?
No, not at all. But it's like, if you are a person who's like, well, I would only date someone who would want to run with me every day for 20 miles. I don't know. That's a random, but some people have like pretty specific things. I'm like, well, what if your partner, for example, I have a good example. People are like, I would never date someone unless we were having sex like 3 times a week. That's the most important thing to me. And I'm like, well, good luck in your 60-year-long marriage, through having kids, through one of you gets sick.
You fall in a canyon, it rips your penis off.
Rips your penis off. You don't know what is going to happen. I just mean to say, you need to love the person you are with.
Yes.
For what is truly on the inside, because life happens and shit happens, and what are you laughing at?
Life happens and shit happens.
And shit happens and crap happens.
Stuff happens.
And you don't know what your life is going to look like, and you have to really love that person. Because I'll even hear people, I'm sorry, I'm popping off, but people will be like, oh, I love when my girlfriend has long hair. I love whatever. I think you are so beautiful. If you came to me today and were like, I want to shave my head today, I'd be like, okay, I really don't care. I think you're beautiful no matter what, because I love you so much and you're hot. But also, like, you're so wonderful. You're so wonderful. So I really don't care. Or some people are like, oh, I love when my girlfriend straightens her hair. I just really don't care. I think you look beautiful all the time. I really don't care at all.
Yeah.
If you wanted to get a full new face, I would be like, maybe we should talk about it because what's going on.
Sure.
But I would be like, I'd still love you the same.
Thank you, baby.
still love you the same. So I think that's a con to dating online. Puts looks first.
I think another con is that you can get catfished.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that, we forget about that in this day and age because we got reverse image search and stuff. That used to be a real big problem.
Scary. It's much scarier. It was much scarier.
I
than it is
guarantee you,
now.
I was on MySpace talking to some scene kids
You know what they used to have?
that I thought I was actually talking to Kiki Cannibal, and I was actually talking to Michael Anderson. Probably.
There was a girl in my grade that was like, I'm Facebook messaging with Selena Gomez, and we all were like, she is so popular. Like, she was so popular because we were like, she's friends with Selena Gomez. This was 100% a 50-year-old man.
Yeah.
Very upsetting to look back.
Absolutely.
But even previous to the internet, like I know my mom talks about it, it's like you would go in the newspaper and you could set up blind dates through the newspaper.
Yeah.
Hell no. Oh my God, that is scary. You do
Sure.
not know who's going to show up on that date.
Absolutely.
But one thing that's really sad that would happen too is they don't know who's showing up for them either. So a lot of people would show up and see the person and be like, I'm going to just leave.
So sad.
Very sad. So you get people would get stood up, which is less common now, I think, because it's hard to get stood up in a
Yeah, it's like, why would you get
age of
stood
the
up?
internet.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's a pro. Standing up does not happen as much.
Yeah, exactly.
That's nice. Our editor just came in and yelled at us because I'm shaking my leg. And I'm still doing it now. Oh, I love to shake my leg.
Jordan's a real big leg shaker.
I'm a leg shaker.
Yeah. Are
That's
you
my
okay? It
family.
doesn't come with a feeling, does it? You're not like stressed out. I feel like you just shake your leg, or are you stressed out?
No, I'm not stressed out at all. I feel like it almost gives me like a runner's high.
God. Feel it makes you feel powerful?
I'm high. No, I don't know.
Ooh.
Something about it just feels so. Maybe like a baby being rocked to sleep is a better.
Yeah.
I don't know. It feels so soothing, but I also don't realize I'm doing it.
Yeah.
I'm sure so many of you also do it, and I'm sure some of you are probably like scholars on why you shake your legs. So
Yeah.
feel free to drop that in the comments.
I mean, I rip out my hair, and it's not because I'm anxious.
Well, it is in a way.
Not really. I think
It's because you have OCD.
it's OCD and I have trichotillomania.
Yeah.
So I rip out my hair. But sometimes, like, if I get really stressed out, sure, maybe I'll do it. But also sometimes when I'm relaxing, I want to rip out my hair. Listen, we all have our stuff.
We all have our stuff. Listen, we all have our stuff.
We're so excited because we are about to get to y'all's questions.
Audience questions.
Our audience questions.
The heart and soul of this podcast.
We asked y'all on Instagram if you had any questions or advice that you needed about dating on the internet. And if you want to ask a question for future episodes, make sure to follow us on Instagram at hwhlpodquest. Every single week we post prompts to questions and you can answer them. And we pick some of our favorites and we answer them. And while we're talking about it, I might as well tell you that you can also email them to our email at hwhlpodquestions@gmail.com.
That's on our link tree.
It's
Just
on
go
our
to our
link tree.
Instagram.
Go to our
and you
link
can see all the
tree.
stuff. You can join our Patreon.
Yeah, you can do all the good
You
stuff.
got it. We got to do a little mid-pod plug.
Yeah.
As they say.
Yeah, well, we're a new podcast, so any support you can give us if you want to rate us, all that stuff is so helpful. Anyways, here are some of the questions we picked from Instagram about dating on the internet.
Okay, my first one is, which is better, talking for a while before meeting or making plans to meet IRL immediately? And for me, I'm going to say a middle ground.
Yeah, 100%.
I used to hate when I would match with someone on a dating app and then I would be like, love this picture of you. You a big beach gal or whatever dumb thing I would say. And they'd be like, I hate small talk. Let's just meet up and get coffee.
Yeah.
I'd be like, shut up. Like, answer. We can have a back and forth. We can text a little. We can chat a little. There's nothing wrong with that. But also, I think if you talk too long, then you might not ever meet in real life. So I think you should talk a little bit, a short exchange. If it feels good, if it seems great, make plans to meet.
Yeah.
But I also think you can chat once you've made the plans. Like, I think you can make the plans and then keep chatting. I don't think you have to make the plans and then be like, we ride at dawn. Goodbye.
It's very me energy to make someone meet up with me that day.
Sure.
I get too eager, too excited. I think it's great to chat a little bit, find out if you have something in common, a little flirting back and forth, but just for, just for a little bit, and then schedule a FaceTime where you guys can have a little FaceTime date.
I don't agree with this.
I think that's
really
great.
don't agree with this.
I think it's great because I've been on dates from the internet where I have immediately upon showing up been like, I don't want to date this person. I don't
that.
like the first two sentences. I'm like, no, this is not going to be it. I don't like it. They're very different in person than they were online. We just don't connect. And it's nice to be able to get it out of the way. Even if you're like, hey, could we talk on the phone to schedule? Even if it's I'm not saying you even have to go on a date, but a 2-minute little FaceTime conversation where you can be like, yes, you are a person I would like to meet in person, because I think dating takes, I always think it is so wild when people are like, how do you have time to have a girlfriend? I'm like, how do you have time to date? Dating takes so much time.
Yes.
So the thought of spending an hour to 3 hours with someone that I know I'm never going to see again is
I
irritating.
hear that. I do think there's a lot of validity to that. I don't want to FaceTime with someone I've never met personally, me. So I'm like, schedule a short first date.
A coffee
Be
date.
like, let's grab coffee. Or, this is a hot take, people don't like it, I say, let's go see a movie. I think a movie is an incredible first date.
I think that is a horrible first date.
Let me get into it. I think it's a good first date. I think it's a good first date because schedule it earlier in the afternoon, right? Like on a weekend, see a matinee. On a weeknight, see a 5:30 movie. You meet up, you're like, hey, how are you? So good to meet you. Let's get snacks. Let's get settled in, whatever. Like meet up like 30 minutes before the movie to like do all the things to get into the theater. That way you have like 30 minutes to like chat, see their snack preferences, see how they talk to the cashier at the movie theater. That's a big thing, you know, for me. I want to see how they interact with customer service people, see if they're normal and not really rude or bizarre.
Give me my popcorn.
Listen, you'd be surprised. I did it in New York. You see all kinds of things. And you get that little interaction.
Yeah.
Then if it's bad, great. Now all you have to do is watch a movie you already wanted to see. And then when the movie's over, you say, so nice meeting you, goodbye. If you're liking them that 30 minutes before the movie, then you're watching the movie. Anticipation is building. Excitement is building. Then the movie ends. You say, you want to go grab a drink? You want to grab dinner?
Yeah.
You want to grab a coffee, whatever. Then you get to go spend more time with them and you have a shared experience to discuss.
Yeah.
So that immediately puts you on kind of the same topic, the same page.
What type of movie?
I mean, anything. I guess I wouldn't be like, you should see something too sad.
Yeah.
But really anything. I think whatever movie makes sense for the two of you to see. If you've talked about how you love horror movies, go see a horror movie. If you both have been like, I want to see this movie so bad because I love Olivia Colman and her new movie's out, great. Go see that movie. Whatever it is. I don't think it matters what it is. Go see it.
Okay, you're selling me a little bit, but I
think
have
it's good.
to tell you, I have a really hard time with first movie dates because my first date ever was at a movie and it was horrible. And it was the biggest rejection I've ever had in my life. I was obviously closeted. At the time, I think I thought maybe I was straight. And this guy, I kind of had a little crush on.
I don't know the story.
No, I never talk about it. It was horrible. It was like I couldn't tell if I liked. I thought he was cute. I thought he was fun and he was hygienic, which, you know, first of all, when I say looks don't matter, I get when hygiene matters. Hygiene is important. I think I asked him to go see a movie. I'm pretty sure. I didn't say this is a date, but it felt very clear it was a date because him and I do not run in the same circles. We're not really friends. And I was like, let's hang out just one-on-one. We're in the movie. I have my hand on the armrest the entire time. I'm really trying to hold this guy's hand. I'm really trying to make a move. I'm trying to be flirty, whatever. Wasn't coming very natural to me because I am gay, but I was trying my best. I was giving it my all. It ends. We did hug, but I was kind of like, I don't know. Like, I don't know how it went. I have no idea. Also, I was like 16, which is really funny to think about because this feels like a very normal date that would happen when you're like 11. I had friends, who were pregnant during this time, and I was like fully, that was a good date, even though we just hugged at the end and it was very awkward. Then the next day, I obviously told my friends, I was like, I went on a date with him. I think it really went well, like whatever. Also, keep in mind, during this time, there was a girl in my high school who I was convinced was in love with me, which does this come from probably some internalized anxiety I was feeling about being gay? Yes, but I was like, she has a crush on me. Oh my God, she has a crush on me 100%. So the guy I went on a date with taps my shoulder. I swear the story's almost over. He taps my shoulder. Well, it's a long story. I don't know. He taps my shoulder and he goes, hey, Kendahl. And I was like, he's going to ask me to prom. There's no way that's not what is happening. And he goes, can you get her for me? And points to the girl I was convinced was in love with me.
Sure.
He asks her to prom in front of me. I'm in between them. They go to prom together. They are still together. They're still together.
There you go.
And that was right after my first date. And I was just like so confused. So I think I feel sometimes with movie dates, it's hard to tell how it went because you're like, we're just sitting next to each other in silence. Now,
but
given
you're an adult now. It's different when you're an adult.
Okay, I'll try it. I'll go on a first date with
Go on a
someone
first date
at
at a movie. My first date was also at a movie, and
I bet it went really well.
it was with someone that I went on to date for years and years and years, but I was so nervous, and I also did the hand thing where I like put my hand there, and then I also kind of kept pretending like I was getting scared in moments. Like I would be like,
Was it a horror movie?
No. So it was.
It's like a rom-com. And he's like, why are you hyperventilating so much?
It was There Will Be Blood, which is a Paul
Mm.
Thomas Anderson movie about the oil industry. I had gotten it confused with the movie that I thought we were seeing, which was No Country for Old Men, which was the horror movie where the serial killer kills people with the thing that they kill meat cows with.
Yep.
And the movie wasn't scary at all. It was like, it has some tense moments, but I keep, and finally he took my hand and he went, here, put your hand here. He went, you okay? And I went, uh-huh. And he went, all right. And then put it back down. And I said, okay, that's the worst thing that's ever happened in the world to any person that's ever been alive.
Did you go to second date?
We dated for 4 or 5 years.
Okay,
So it ended
awesome.
up being fine, but that was bad. And then I also leaned over halfway through the movie and went, when does he start killing people with the cow thing? And he was like, that's a different movie.
Oh, Jordan. So we both had bad first dates in a movie.
But I don't think that means it's a bad concept.
Okay.
I think you just have to tackle it correctly. I think if you show up right when the movie is starting, bad.
Yeah.
You know what? Like it has to. There
so you
has
have to be stressed then too and be like, oh, what scene are we in? Blah, blah,
Yes,
blah,
there has
whatever.
to be like thought put into it, strategy.
Totally.
But I think if you use my strategy, it will be great for you. Try it out. DM us. Let me know.
Let me know how it went. Someone's like, I went on a date in a movie and then he asked about my friend and right
And
after
they are
to prom.
married, yeah.
Okay, is an hour and a half too far to meet someone from Hinge? I've done it. I've driven 3 hours for a Hinge date.
If you're a lesbian, no. If you're straight, yes. I don't think any man is worth traveling an hour and a half. I'm sorry.
I don't know if any. I guess it depends where you live. If you live in LA or a big
This is
city,
okay.
why the fuck are you driving? Which is what I was doing. I was out of my mind. I was going through a
This is
breakup.
true.
I was 19 years old. I was feral. It was horrible. But I know I've said feral twice in this podcast.
Just be aware.
No more, huh?
Just be aware.
But if you live in a small town and maybe it's like, well, I can either date my neighbor or I can date this guy I go to church with or I can drive 3 hours. I get that.
That makes sense.
Totally.
That makes sense. And if it's an hour and a half with traffic, no, because that could be LA. But if you live like geographically an hour and a half from the person,
Yeah.
as my dad would say, if it's an hour and a half as the crow flies. I just think it's unnecessary in some situations and it's necessary in other situations. So you have to feel it out.
100%. All right, what's the next question?
How do I get over my insecurities and just get into meeting someone online?
Just
Get over
into
it.
Yeah, just get over it and get into it.
Nothing that you are insecure about, anyone else has noticed or cared about ever once in your life. I promise you. And if someone does care about it, they are so weird. But I promise you, I have literally never thought anything about anyone else ever. And the things that's something I have to remind myself about insecurities is when I'm like, oh, it's so easy to be like, oh, I went up a pant size. I have never noticed when another human being has gone up a pant size ever in my entire life.
Or down a pant size.
Or down a pant size, or not wearing pants at all. It doesn't matter. I have never noticed when someone has acne. I have never noticed when someone got a haircut that they don't like. I just don't. Nobody cares about what you're doing because everyone is so wrapped up in what they are doing.
Because the people that you're going on dates with also have a whole bundle of insecurities that they're dealing with.
Absolutely.
They don't have time to think about what you're insecure about. I feel like any date I've gone on, in my brain, the other person has never had an insecure thought and they're just super confident and feel incredible. And I'm sure they probably felt the same way about me, even though on the inside I was like, oh my God, what am I doing?
And if anyone is thinking about one of your insecurities, they are weird. They are very bizarre. And that I think speaks to even more of the fact that they're probably super insecure then.
Yeah.
So I would say just put yourself out there. And if someone cares about things that you are insecure about, they are a loser and you should not be with them. If you meet the right people, or not even the right, one person to end all persons, but if you're going on dates with cool people that you could potentially connect with, they are not going to care about your insecurities. They probably have not even noticed them.
Yeah.
Someone said, how do I get over the nerves of writing the first text? It feels like all my personality is gone when I'm texting.
Oh, I relate to that. I feel like sometimes on Hinge it would feel like we were trying to like out joke each other.
Oh,
and
that's
it's
exhausting.
like, what is this? Like, what? None of this even means anything. I'm like saying things about myself that are like true, but I'm heightening them just so that I can make this joke because I don't know what else to say.
For example, Kendahl and I, when we were first talking, it was, one of those normal things you're doing where it's like, hey, like, good morning or whatever. It was like a Saturday.
What are you gonna say?
Kendahl was like, what are you up to today? And I was like, oh, my friend Luke and I are going to an estate sale. And Kendahl's response is, oh my gosh, estate sales are my happy place. And I said, that is so fun. When you come out to LA eventually, we will go to estate sales together. Flash forward to 2 years into our relationship. I tell Kendahl, let's go to an estate sale with Luke this weekend. Kendahl goes, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be in someone else's house that's died. I don't want to be with a bunch of other people. I don't want to do that. You and Luke go do that alone. I say, I thought you loved estate sales. Kendahl's like, I've never said that ever in my life. Why would you think that? I said, well, when we first started dating, you told me estate sales were your happy place. Kendahl said, I have never said anything is my happy place. I would never say
and
that.
I said, and furthermore, I know because I've never been to an estate sale.
So then I pull up my phone. I'm scrolling. I show Kendahl this message that says estate sales are my happy place. And Kendahl had to eat her words and apologize to me.
I've never been more embarrassed. I wasn't even embarrassed. I was not even embarrassed.
You should have been embarrassed. It
No,
was embarrassing.
I was embarrassed, but I was not embarrassed that I lied. I was embarrassed that I said happy place. That I said anything was my happy place. It was so embarrassing to me.
All of that is so embarrassing for you.
So embarrassed. But now I do like estate sales.
You like them fine.
But yeah, I was like, oh, I need to keep it interesting. I can't just be like, oh, cool. Have fun, which would have been a way better.
Been like that.
100%. That would have been a way better response.
And then I wouldn't be roasting you many years into our relationship on a podcast.
Yeah, it's not good. And you got to keep up with all the lies from the first like 2 days of like a banter back and forth.
Ooh, and it's hard. Kendall's a liar.
It's
so
a
it is
nightmare.
hard. Kendahl loves to white lie.
No, I don't. Okay, here's a good one. Are long distance relationships always doomed to fail?
No.
I think they ask this because a lot of internet relationships end up being long distance.
I mean, every celebrity is in a long distance relationship. And I know a lot of celebrities don't work out, but also a lot of them do. So I think keep that in mind. Like any celebrity that has ever been with someone, it is long distance because in this industry you have to travel a lot and you have to be other places for months at a time shooting things, or one of you's in LA and one of you's in New York because you booked a job, whatever. So I think that so many people are in long distance relationships that maybe you don't realize are in long distance relationships. And I think they can work swimmingly. I think you just have to be extra good about communication.
I think long distance relationships are absolutely incredible, especially when you start dating. Obviously, eventually you want to start building a life with that person and be in the same place for most of the time. But I think in the beginning, they push you to be very good at everything that comes with relationships. For example, when we started dating, I was very insecure attachment. That made long distance not great for me, very hard. But that's something that would have been hard if we weren't long distance, but would have been more easy to put under the rug a little bit.
Sure.
I think if you're a bad communicator, that's not going to fly in a long distance relationship. It can be easily kind of put under the rug if you're in person, but eventually it's going to come back and cause issues. So I think the first 6 months of our relationship was not all sunshine and roses. I think we had to work out a lot of stuff because we were put to the ultimate test of long distance. You have to communicate. You're not going to get to not communicate and then go make out and it be all happy because you need to talk about things, plan things. We had a 3-hour time difference, which isn't that bad, but we had to plan when we were going to meet and talk. And I think it just really pushes you. I think it's really hard though if you're not stable or you're not secure in your relationship, because then you're going to need to text your partner all the time, call your partner all the time. And that's not a great way to live your life. So I think if you can get into a thing where it's we start our mornings, we call each other, we say hello, we do our day, at night maybe we call, we check in again. That's awesome. But if you're in a place where mentally you're going to need to have this overtake your whole life, long distance might not be for you, but therapy might be. Because I think
absolutely huge plug for therapy.
All those things are going to come into play in your in-person relationships as well.
Yes. Let's do some of these rapid fire.
Do it.
What if the person I go on a date with looks really different in person than they did online? I think there's 2 routes for this. One, if they look different because of physical changes that have happened to them that they maybe can't help, hair loss, weight gain, whatever. I think they're probably posting pictures of their best self that they feel is their best self, which makes sense, but maybe not able to fully bring that physical best self that they have perceived to that date. Be very kind, in my opinion. I think you should be nice about it. They're not trying to trick you. They're just trying to do their best, make themselves feel good, put themselves out there. If you are not attracted to them now in real life, totally fine. Have the date. Don't linger. Don't go on another date with them, but be kind. If they show up and they're a totally different person,
Run
be like, later,
for the
skater.
hills.
Yeah, do not stay because they will murder you and your family.
Agree, 100%. Next question, tips for a good dating profile.
Sincerity. Be
100%.
sincere.
Be sincere, be real. You don't need to be the most inspiring person on planet Earth, but on the other end, you do not need to be the best comedian on planet Earth.
Absolutely.
Not everyone wants to date a comedian. In fact, most people don't want to date a comedian. They're horrible to date.
100%. Also be really specific. Like in your dating profile, if it's just like, when it's like likes, don't just be like dogs and nature and whatever. Be like, I love going on a hike every Sunday with my chihuahua.
Yeah.
Because blah, 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 whatever. Or be like, I love the 4th season of Friends, popcorn and M&Ms mixed together, and very large bathtubs at hotels.
Because you've given so many things for them to comment on besides just like, hey, cutie.
Yes.
You look so hot.
And it makes you memorable. It says, oh, that's so funny. This person loves popcorn and M&Ms mixed together. That's such a fun thing to include. Makes you memorable. And one thing that I want to leave us with as this episode comes to an end, I have heard that the best place to meet the love of your life is in the Happy Wife, Happy Life podcast comment section.
Oh, that is probably true. You guys should flirt with each other.
You guys should flirt with each other like on Instagram and TikTok, like in our comments. You should flirt with each other. I think there's a lot of horny singles in your area.
I think that is true. Well, Jordan, what a treat it has been to chat with you about this.
It always is.
To be clear, I wasn't desperate and I would have dated anyone. Jordan is, I hit the jackpot with you. I just was in a phase of sliding into DMs. That's why I have to say, you won the lottery with you.
All right, we'll see you next week.
Wait, before we say that, we just have to say thank you so much for listening. If you're listening on Spotify, we're currently recording in the Spotify offices, and it is an absolute treat. Make sure to rate us, come back, listen again. If you're on Apple Podcasts, rate, review, and if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to subscribe and comment down below.
Hi!
Yay! Oh, yes, hello! And we appreciate you all so much. It's been such a wonderful podcast launch, and we're super excited to continue. So, support us anywhere you can, and join our Patreon, and follow us on socials, and we love ya. And Jordan, I love you.
And I love you.
Bye!
Bye!